teams, and you're able to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, who were fairly healthy, and you don't have two of your best players playing, and J.K. Dobbins, who just had surgery, and PS2, and we don't know exactly when he's coming back, hopefully right after the bye, but you're still able to win these games and find creative ways to win. This is a huge momentum swing and a huge win for the Denver Broncos. 9-2 at home, undefeated at home. Hey, let's keep going, man.
Yeah, a 6-0 this season. 11-game home winning streak. And that's why the prospect of hosting these playoff games at a mile high with this crowd and this altitude in this weather. You're not going to Miami in January. Like, you'd be coming to Colorado. And so, which I know there's other, colder parts around the country. We have it pretty good here. I mean, we get the winter, but it's you get cold snaps, but it's usually pretty mild. But
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it can get cold here, and a little nippy.
Totally. So, like, the fact that that's out there for the taking. Now, I do want to say this, little house cleaning from hour number one. I said that the Broncos control their own destiny in the AFC. It's technically not true. Right now, if you go to ESPN.com or NFL.com and you click on, like, standings and you go to, like, playoffs, the Broncos are the number one seed right now. And you would say, well, if they're the number one seed now and they just continue to win, like,
they should stay number one.
It's technically not true because the Colts and the Patriots will play an extra conference game. And what will break ties is your winning percentage against conference opponents. But for all intents and purposes, the Broncos, I would say, effectively do basically control their own destiny. That's what I would say.
Oh, yeah, because if the Denver Broncos continue to do what they're doing, it puts pressure on the Patriots. It puts pressure on the Colts to do their job as well. And if they don't and they slip up, well, then, yes, it becomes ours. And we're playing at a high level. And we, truthfully, now the Colts can be another one that you can say is believable, but truly, the Denver Broncos are more believable because of who they have been playing, who they just beat, where the Colts, and like I said, you can say that with the Colts. Colts are finding ways to win too. When it comes to the Patriots, though, the Patriots have an easier schedule, and we all know that. So who knows what happens when the Patriots have to play a couple tougher opponents later on down the line, where the Denver Broncos seem like they're more battle-tested.
Well, definitely more battle-tested and definitely more believable. We talked about this as a validation game on Friday. The Broncos were not in some sort of must-win scenario. They came into the game at 8-2. So in terms of, like, that game on paper actually was way more important to Kansas City than it was for the Broncos. That's why it's so cool that the Broncos won anyway against a desperate champion. I mean, think about that. A desperate dynasty.
Yeah.
Came into Denver yesterday and got beat by the team that was in far more control of their playoff future and the division. But
the Denver Broncos were desperate too, because although we've been winning these games, it's the way we've been winning them.
Correct.
Just with the defense.
Correct.
And you have us and everybody else saying, well, hey, are they believable? The defense is, but offensively they've been bad. So for this team, and you can just see it with those players after the game when they're talking to the media of, like, how much this meant to the players.
It's true.
Where it's like, hey, we blocked out the noise, and everybody was talking crap about the offense, special teams, and yet the two biggest reasons why we won the game, or they won the game, was because of special teams in the offense doing their part finally. So I think it was one of these things where they were desperate. The Denver Broncos were desperate to show the fan base, to show the country that they are believable.
Yeah, and that's why they checked the validation box. Because when you beat Kansas City and everything's on the line for them, it just means more. It just does. So I think around the country today, and here to illustrate the believability and the validation that we're talking about, the Broncos were 8-2 coming out of last weekend. You pull up the, like, ESPN power rankings, they weren't inside the top 5. So, like, there was still this layer of, I actually don't know who you are. Wait till that power ranking comes out tomorrow.
Ooh-wee.
Wait to see where the Broncos are for Sports Illustrated, CBS, Bleacher Report, NFL.com, Pro Football Talk, ESPN. Like, not a single outlet will have them outside of the top 5. They don't belong outside of the top 5. Seeing is believing. 9-2 is 9-2. 6-0 at home is 6-0 at home. I mean, they just rattled off a half of a season with consecutive wins. I'm beyond impressed. Beyond impressed. And really, the person I'm impressed with the most is Bo Nix.
Mr. Nix.
It's Bo Nix.
Step into my office, man. You're not in trouble. You're not in trouble this time. Good job. Good job. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you did Sunday evening. I'm proud of what you were able to do. Command that huddle. Be confident in the pocket. Make those throws. Be a lot more accurate with the ball. And honestly, it was even the checks, Zach.
Sure.
The adjustments that he was making at the line of scrimmage, putting himself and his team in better situations to score, giving his receivers the opportunity to catch balls. Now, Troy Franklin ended up having a decent game. He could have had a better game if he would have came down with that first deep ball where it's like, hey, yes, it's a little overthrown if you want to call it that, but good receivers make those plays.
Yeah.
And for Troy, he'll learn that. He's still young too, but it's good to see Bo Nix starting to connect with his receivers again.
Here is Sean Payton talking about how well he thought Bo did.
Real well. He won. That's his job. He won. And against a pretty stingy defense that can give you problems, there were some big plays there. You know, we had some early field position in the first half, and I'm like, man, there's a couple of those field goals. One of them just needed to be a touchdown, but I felt at halftime good about where we were relative to the matchup of our defense and their offense. Their early start, first 15 type team, and I felt like, you know, aside from some of the penalties, you know, we did a good job in all three phases.
So, and it's interesting to hear Sean, and I know he covered quite a bit of ground there, but when he initially says how Bo did, hey, really well, he won. That's his job.
Yep.
That is Sean Payton's way of addressing the debates and controversial conversations surrounding Bo, of like, just forget everything else. Did the team win? That's the number one quarterback stat that Sean is going to care about.
Just win.
And so I think that was his subliminal way of addressing some of these debates that have been happening, not just here in Colorado and the region, but around the country as well.
But you know what? For Sean's a head coach, and he knows what his quarterback did. He didn't want to gloat about it, but what he wanted to do is just say, hey, this is a business, and it's all about handling business. Now, I'm going to say this for Sean. Bo did a great job. Yes, he didn't score a touchdown, but it's the way that he looked during that game in crucial moments. It was some of the plays that he made in crucial moments. It was the way that he looked coming out of that huddle. He got his team in and out of that huddle fast. That told me that, okay, you know what you're doing. You're confident in this scheme. You're confident in this game plan and what you're seeing out there. And then you played free. You let it rip when it was time to open up and go for a couple of deep balls. You were able to hit different receivers. And not just receivers, a tight end, a running back, you name it. Everybody got involved, and that's when Bo Nix is at his best. That's when any quarterback is at his best, is when they can sustain drives, get into some type of rhythm, but get everybody on that football field involved.
Yep, and 3 different receivers finished with 59 yards or more, and that was Sutton, Pat Bryant, and Troy Franklin. 2 different receivers were in the 80s in terms of yards, and both of them aren't named Cortland Sutton. But it was, I'll say this, though, in addition to that, like, it was nice to see Cortland starting to be featured again.
Yeah.
Like, we had talked about that since last Monday, and he, along with Franklin, led the Broncos in targets with 8 apiece. There was a second, I would file it under the umbrella of a drop. I thought Troy had 2 of them, one early and one late. The one early was probably
the bomb, right?
Yeah, it was the bomb. But there was another one late where I thought Troy could have made a play. We see elite receivers make a play on a ball like that. But that being said, the Troy Franklin 35-yard catch to set up the game-winning field goal, I don't know if there was a bigger play in the game than that. And there was some big plays throughout that afternoon.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there was a bigger one than that connection to Franklin left sideline to set up the game winner.
You think that was the biggest play? Because I had to really do a deep dive, went back and watched film, and I kind of got more detail with it. Like, the biggest play to me that helped solidify this game was Cortland Sutton on that last drive, where you need that first down. It's 3rd and 15. Bo Nix hits Cortland for 20 yards, converts on that. Now you have more plays. You have a fresh set of downs, and you set yourself up for success. You set yourself up to get closer for Will Lutz to make that game-winning field goal. I think that was the biggest play of the game, but nobody's really talking about because it wasn't as flashy. But Bo Nix on third down, connecting with his number one receiver, that's a beautiful thing.
I could give you pushback and say there was a play bigger than that. That wasn't either of these two plays. And these are healthy conversations, by the way. When you're debating what the biggest play was in a monster win like that, and I'm getting flashbacks of the 23 Nugget season, the 22 Av season, when we would be debating who was the most important player. Well, he's the most important, but this other guy's the best, and this other guy's the most clutch, and this other guy's the best two-way, and da-da-da-da-da. The 48-yard play to Pat Bryant. That game is knotted up.
That's your boo.
At 13 apiece.
Did a teardrop?
That set up, it might have, that set up the go-ahead field goal 16-13, and it was just the constant response. No matter what Kansas City did, the Broncos always had a counterpunch. They weren't going away. And I'll use the word resilient again.
Yeah.
That was a resilient team yesterday that, man, they were just poised. The way that they executed, the way that they were hamstrung in certain areas, no leading tackler, no leading rusher, no defensive player of the year, maligned offense. I'm so impressed.
The game plan was well thought out by Sean Payton, and the players executed. What do we always say? Players make plays, players win games. In this case, the players were making the plays. Bo Nix was making plays. Pat Bryant.
Come on now.
You know what?
That
was the first time that I truly got to see Pat Bryant open up. Was that his first deep ball this year?
It was.
See,
it was.
First deep ball, was able to connect for 48 yards. My man messed his shoulder up a little bit. He's a receiver. If he was a running back, he'd be a little bit tougher. But that's what you love to see. He's building off of his game. Troy Franklin, he's getting these opportunities. Cortland finally got more targets than he did the last 2 weeks. So things are coming around. Evan Ingram. Thank you. Yeah, and yes, it wasn't 45 or 50 yards, but he was more involved. He was running with authority when he was getting the catch. It was the run after the catch. He was sustaining drives. Like, that's what you want to see from your tight end, and hopefully Evan Ingram's game can open up to becoming the Joker.
Yep. Pat Bryant, 6 targets, 5 receptions. And this is where, and I've been talking about this since the springtime, the floor on this young man and the reliability rating for a first-year wide receiver, I put this out there on social media over the weekend. I've never seen a first-year wide receiver make as little mistakes as Pat Bryant makes. He just doesn't hurt the team. Like, it feels like ever. And a lot of his catches, they're on third down.
Yeah.
The first third down of the game. Because if you remember what the first play of the game was?
It was a pass. It was a sack.
It was a sack.
I was like, oh, Spags is coming early.
Exactly. And so, and then Chris Jones got involved later.
Yep.
But on that first series, Bo Nix gets sacked. It's 2nd and 15, 2nd and 16, whatever it was, I forget. But like getting that initial first down on that first series, when you start that series behind the chains, I don't think that you can overstate the importance of that first down. And
you have to get it.
And who did Bo go to in that moment? It was Pat Bryant. I'm telling you. We are going to see this young man's role expand, and we're seeing it right now throughout the season. But goodness gracious, really fun to watch.
No, it was fun to watch, but also for Sean, it was like, good on you, Sean, getting everybody involved, not just Troy Franklin for deep balls, not just Marvin Mims, but Pat Bryant. Nobody thought Pat Bryant was going to be catching balls downfield. He was going to be doing the dirty work. That's what I thought. But now when I'm watching Pat Bryant and he's opening up and he has the speed and he is reliable and he is coming up big on third downs, now he's going to get an increased role. Now he's going to get more opportunities. And now for Bo Nix, it's like, hey, he's another guy I can trust. Now I have Court. Now I have Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin on the deep balls, Marvin Mims. Be careful with Marvin Mims, because you guys are going to get lulled to sleep with these other receivers, and Mims is going to be open for a 50-yard touchdown again here soon.
Agreed.
So there are weapons that are starting to emerge that we need if we're going to make this run in the playoffs, that we need if we're going to win a Super Bowl this year.
Here's Sean Payton immediately after the game.
Obviously, a good team win against a good team. Obviously, a big divisional game playing at home. I thought our fans were outstanding. It felt loud to me, and I say this respectfully for the first time since I've been here, really loud. and I think that helped. Man, we did a lot of things well. Special teams came up. I mean, Frank Crum gets a PAT block. Field position, I felt like we played on their end of the field. And one of the keys we felt, these guys have really all season, the last 4 weeks, have really been flipping the script and playing on the opponent's side of the field. So there'll be some things, obviously, we want to clean up. Guys will be out of here for a while. And then we get ready to go for, a Sunday night game here in a couple weeks. So any questions?
Pretty cool that the next Bronco game is Sunday Night Football, which is always, every week, the most watched game of the weekend is Sunday Night Football on NBC. When he said, I want to say this respectfully, this is the first time it's been loud since I've been here. I mean, really loud. We know Mile High gets loud, okay? There's 70,000 people there cheering on a football game. But that yesterday was a different level. And when you start to see that camera shake on the TV copy.
Shaking like a stripper.
When you start to see that camera shaking and they're struggling to get the communication and you got to put the hand over the ears and all that stuff. Guys, if you were at that football game yesterday, you were the 12th man out there. You helped that football team in Denver put a stranglehold on this division. I don't think you can overstate it.
No, you're right. And I'm glad that you're bringing it up. I'm glad that you're telling this to the fans because fans matter. It matters when you're cheering. It matters when you boo, too, because it makes a player feel some type of way. But when they're doing all the right things and you're right there to help them out, when it gets loud and you have Patrick Mahomes that can't get the play off or he can't communicate to his offensive line, if you're watching these games and you see a running back step up with the quarterback as he's talking, that's because he can't hear. And now if you can't hear, you don't know what you're doing. And if the offensive line cannot hear, you can't get the play off. So the fans matter. And this is why when we do end up winning this division, when we do have home field advantage, the fans have to be on point all night long because it's an advantage that a lot of teams out there do not have.
Who do you think the best offensive player was yesterday? Not named Bo Nix.
Not named Bo Nix. It was Mr. Cortland Sutton. And here's why. With Cortland Sutton, he came up big multiple times on third down. We talked about Pat Bryant before. Cortland Sutton, he had the most third down catches. All right, he had 3 of them out of the 4 receptions. He had 4 receptions, 59 yards, and 3 of those 4 receptions were third down conversions. Third down conversions keep you on the field. Third down conversions help sustain and extend drives that you hope can turn into points, which in this case, a lot of times it did turn into points. Not touchdowns, but 3 points and then a touchdown later on. But Cortland Sutton came up big in the fourth quarter when you had that last 10-play, 58-yard drive. Cortland Sutton catches that ball for 20 yards to sustain that drive, give you a fresh set of downs. So Mr. Cortland Sutton, Mr. Consistent, was my guy.
And after he caught that 3rd and 15, I'm pretty sure he had another one right after that on a I think it was 6 to go in terms of yards. It was, and I think it might have been 2nd and 6. I want to say.
Yeah, it's because he did that step back.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like 6 yards ago. He did the step back, almost didn't get it. I'm like, Court, what are you doing? But was able to get the first down and move the chains.
No, it's a good answer. I would probably say Pat Bryant, just because you're talking about like maxing out opportunities. 6 targets, 5 receptions for 82 yards. Like someone like Troy Franklin had 2 more yards, but 8 targets for 4 receptions. Pat Bryant, if the ball goes his way, there's an excellent chance it's going to find its home. And then another guy that you could put in there, but by way of special teams, is Marvin Mims.
Mr. Mims.
That initial return. Oh, how many yards was it? It
70,
was
70 yards.
Was it 70?
Yep.
Like that was just insane. And you hang points on it. So special teams, direct impact on special teams that leads to points. The separate return later in the game that was like a 24-yard return up to midfield. On that next offensive series, you only get 1 first down, but because of the return, you're in field goal range. So you hang more points. So on 2 different occasions, Marvin Mims' punt return directly impacts scoring for the Broncos.
Isn't it interesting that when Marvin Mims finally gets back into the game because he was knocked out with a concussion, things change, especially special teams wise because he's a all-pro punt and kick returner, but also offensively, you have to watch out for him. You don't know where he's going to be at. You don't know if he's going to have an end around or a reverse, or, hey, you look up and he's 50 yards down the field. So you always have to have your antennas up when Marvin Mims is in the game. So now it does take a little bit of pressure off of Troy Franklin, Cortland Sutton, Pat Bryant, to where now they have one-on-one opportunities outside. So Marvin Mims is a big-time factor for these games, and now that he's back, we get to feel his presence in a great way.
Really fun, man. Really fun. Here was Sean Payton after the huge win, talking about the clutch nature of this football team and making an analogy that is pretty memorable.
It's not me. It's training your culture. This Nick Saban quote about toughness, really not necessarily physical, but, you know, the mental and how much you can take. And he likened it to hurricane windows. You can get the 139s, the 150s, or the 189s. And obviously, if you go up, they cost more. So I went through that same thing with the beach house. And it's finding the 189s. And sometimes you got to pass on something that might look attractive, but it's finding those guys that can tune out the noise, and there's been a lot of noise, like a lot of just, I won't comment on it, but anyway, and I hear some of the narratives and I just want to like cry, but anyway.
Let me say, I'm not going to comment on it, and then proceeds to comment on it, but keep going.
It is what it is. That's your jobs. But our jobs are to focus on the wins and to focus on, there's a way to win each game, and the players deserve a chance to have that. And so sometimes that can vary, but in a game where, you know, a lot of guys were banged up and they were fully healthy, it's a big win.
A huge win, because the Broncos were banged up.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs have gotten healthier and are at basically full capacity, essentially, from a availability standpoint. But the analogy about the windows. And real quick, and I know I stopped it, but Sean hears it all.
He's on social media.
Sean reads it.
Yeah.
Sean hears it. And that's why, like, he had several testy moments with media members yesterday after the game. And I think that, you know, he intakes it at a level that I think is abnormal for an NFL coach during the season. But then when you get a big win, he had the attitude of like, you knuckleheads don't know what you're talking about. I have to be here taking your dumbass questions. So, like, it's a formality, but, like, because I heard that frustration in his voice because, again, he listens and reads to a level that is, I think, abnormal for someone in his position.
And, you know, everybody is different in how they react to the noise. Some people, they listen to it, but it doesn't affect them. Some people are like, hey, I hold grudges. So, yes, you can hit me or knock me down or continue to talk down on me until I rise back up, and then I'm going to come back at you. And that's Sean for you. Sean's going to remember who it is.
Yes.
Whether it's you or I or somebody else, and the next time he sees one of us, he's going to make sure that we feel his wrath.
Yep. And this goes back to the quote from 2 years ago with the middle finger.
Yeah.
When I asked him in the preseason press conference in training camp, do you have a separate compartment of motivation for the middle finger and the things that have been said about you, whether it's coming from the league or different coaches or media? And his response was, I actually have two middle fingers, which is just hilarious and just classic.
But Zach, all the noise and the talking Sean does, I will say this, he's a great coach.
He is.
And I've been around a lot of coaches, but when we get to sit there during camp and watch him truly just teach these players and coach and be a teacher, he really does a great job. He stops practice. He brings everybody up. He explains what he wants done. He explains his vision. He explains what's going to happen on this play. So the attention to detail is there. And for the players, if they would just clean up the undisciplined nature out there on that football field of like, that's between you. That's not Sean. That's players locking in and being more disciplined. And if they do that and listen to what Sean's saying, because Sean is a great teacher, you come up with a situation like the Denver Broncos are in now. You're 9-2. Sean Payton is a great coach and a great teacher. He needs to continue to do this and teach players and teach Bo Nix and continue to help his growth. But he's doing a good job.
Yep. I want to talk actually more about this conversation in dedication.